Well, what's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and I got my first kind of Skype kind of co-op review with fellow YouTuber Antoine Bandele. Is that correct?
It's Bandele.
Bandele.
It's
Okay.
like andale in Spanish, but with the B in the front.
Okay, pretty much he's kind of the king of, I'd say, Star Wars versus series, just as I am like king of Final Fantasy versus series. So it's kind of nice we have that parallel. So that's pretty awesome. So, welcome to the channel, and we're going to talk about our thoughts on the newly released CGI animated film titled Final Fantasy 15 Kingsglaive. So, welcome.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I haven't been super into the Final Fantasy 15 universe as they call it. Like when they made the what was the Final Fantasy Uncovered like a
Like press
keynote
comp.
presentation.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I was like, oh, okay, it's cool. They're doing like this multimedia thing, but I wasn't like fully on board. And then like the reviews came in like for Kings like the early reviews from the critics, and it was like getting like slammed, and I was like, oh
I
man, I
know.
was
It's like,
hoping it was gonna be. I
it,
mean, I was hoping it would be good, and then I heard from like a Final Fantasy friend of mine on Facebook. She was like, "What are they talking about? Like this was the best thing ever." And I was like, oh, "Okay, I guess I gotta see for myself." So I saw it, and I was like, What were the critics talking about? That was a
I,
really
I,
solid
I,
movie."
I don't know. I kind of figured it was one of those. I mean, it was. I figured it was a lot like Final Fantasy VII Advent Children, where most of the critics that were bashing were just people who weren't fans of it. And what is the funny part is if you actually get either the Blu-ray or the DVD, they actually have a menu selection section that actually explains the story of Final Fantasy VII before you watch the film. And this one kind of did something similar to that, but not entirely, but it kind of tells the story parallel to the game that we're about to play.
Right, exactly. And it wasn't. I feel like you need to sort of put in the effort to want to understand it. Because if you don't, if you just kind of like try and just turn your mind off and just watch
You
it through, yeah, you can easily like
easily get lost. I mean, there's
exactly.
so many Easter eggs and so many things that they're talking about that if you know anything about the history of Final Fantasy storylines, you'll notice that they kind of take little snippets from this game and this game and this game, and like anyone who's a big fan will notice like plenty of Easter eggs. I'll just like be like, oh, that's awesome that they're bringing this back into this game. So that I loved it for that.
Right, yeah, and I like the well, okay. At first, the voice acting wasn't super amazing for me. Like when we first hear Luna, Luna Freya, I hear Cersei Lannister like just straight up, and
Yeah,
but no, but then it gets better. Like as the scenes progress, I feel like they recorded the actors like in the how the movie played out because as the movie progressed, those characters became more the characters and less those actors. Same with
exactly.
Aaron. I mean, less so with Aaron Paul because I felt that he wasn't like Jesse from Breaking Bad
Yeah,
initially, like the same way I thought that Lena Headey was Cersei at the beginning,
Cersei.
but at the end of the movie, it's Nyx, it's Luna, it's Regis. Like you don't really think about those actors anymore, and they fall more into it. And I wonder if that was more just the director didn't get them into the vibe of the characters
I'm
so early on.
I mean, seeing as how I'm not really I don't really watch them. I hate saying this, I don't really watch Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad. I got right into the characters right away. I didn't see them as these characters from this popular show. I saw them as the characters. I think it's going to be a little bit odd when we see them in the game with different voice
Right,
actors.
exactly.
That's kind of weird. It kind of makes me wonder why did you hire these big actor names when you already had established voice actors doing the voice for these characters in the game. Kind of makes me wonder why didn't you just do that? But
The only two who are the same are the guy the Niflheim
yeah,
not the emperor but
the
the
chancellor.
thank you, yeah, the
Yeah,
chancellor. I forget his name though.
yeah, yeah,
I forget his name, but the guy with like the wing thing going on that he has.
yeah,
He's the only one who carries over between both series. And of course,
yeah.
King Regis is different.
Different. Yeah.
And I also felt the woman, the sorceress at the beginning. She was
Uh,
probably one of the weaker ones. I felt.
she wasn't in. She was not in the film long
Yeah,
enough.
she only had like
So
two scenes, maybe three.
yeah.
But I did
Oh,
distinctly hear her voice as being like out of place. Like she felt like she didn't know, or she wasn't taking it as I don't know if it was she wasn't taking it as seriously, but she wasn't as talented as some of the other voice talent that she was going against, like in that scene or in those
yeah.
scenes. But yeah, like the story itself, I think like some people will say like, oh, it's just one big cutscene to the
Um,
the game, and I'm
I,
like, yeah,
I
pretty much that's what's awesome about it.
I thought it was a total film. However, one of the big, I want to say, editing issues I had was I really hated every time it would just completely fade to black. That is absolutely a video game cutscene thing, a tendency that they have. And I felt every time it did that, it did feel like a cutscene. But every time it was, cutting from scene to scene flawlessly, then it felt like a film. So not sure if they meant to do that on purpose to kind of blend the two, but I think for a majority of it, I think it did feel more like a film than just an extended cutscene.
Right, and I was actually okay with those. Excuse me. The people I did hear the criticisms about the transitions, but I felt because I'm in Asian cinema, they have a different vocabulary of how they shoot and edit their films together. And there's like sometimes you'll see like weird crossfades between scenes and
Yeah,
things like that. That's just I think that's more of a cultural stylistic thing that us Americans don't aren't as
you know,
vibing with. So I wasn't
used to.
super like I didn't. I was kind of expecting that a little bit, so I didn't. I wasn't too jarred by those weird. Well, for us, would be like weird transitions, you know.
Yeah,
But it was still good. Like the opening. Okay, so it opens up. So basically, the premise of the whole thing is that, which is the same premise for the game itself, is that there are
yeah,
these two empires at war.
yeah.
Niflheim, which is like the technological advanced,
Technological, and
yeah.
then you have the
Lucius, which is like
but
the
more magical.
yeah,
So
and they
I
have
love,
this crystal.
yeah. And they want this crystal for what reason we don't know, but I'm sure the game will explain what they want
Right.
with it. And it what's cool is that the Niflheim, they have this new like destructive demon somehow, and it's just too powerful. And then they realize like, okay, maybe we need to settle for this peace, which isn't really a peace. It's more of like, we'll let you surrender, and we promise not to completely waste your city.
Right.
And the whole situation is, okay, do we allow this prince to marry this princess from the other kingdom so that there's peace? But what are they? Is it a ploy or whatnot? And I mean, do you want this to be spoiler filled, or is this just a
No, I think it's been out long enough
out
that
long enough?
it can be
Okay.
spoiler
So
filled.
so pretty much it kind of, and then you find it's this kind of trick in order to get the empire kind of in their magical barrier, and then they stage this massive attack, and it's successful in taking out a lot of significant characters, and then they get the crystal and they're able to take it back to their kingdom, which will obviously lead into the game. And I think that's really the overall plot. My biggest, I'll go into this now because this is just the one thing that's bugging me. Is that not that the spoilers? My biggest concern about this movie is that perhaps it gave us too much information, because after seeing this, we now know, in a sense, the three main stages of the game. We know that at the beginning, when we play as Knox and his team, we're going on this trip to this location to meet the princess, but we know the princess isn't there. So this whole trip and probably the first third of the game is BS. And then at some point, we're probably going to lose our powers, and we're going to be wondering like, what's going on with the crystal? What's going on with the king? And then Luna's going to show up, and she's going to say, "Listen, your dad's dead. Your city's been destroyed. The crystal's been taken. You need to return to the city." And then we go into the second half of the game. We need to get back to the city and take it back. And I think at that point, then he's probably going to be made the new king. And then it's like, okay, now we need to go back to the empire and get the crystal back. And so we know initially how this game has to play out. I'm just hoping I'm wrong and there's a couple of surprises, because knowing that going into the game is really kind of going to affect my experience with the story, because I know so much of what is going on in the background and how significant it is to the present that we are going to be introduced during while we're playing the game.
It's funny
But
that you
that's
mentioned that too, because there's a new trailer that came out
that
recently.
that spoiled that the king was dead. I was like,
Yeah, well, not that the king was dead, but Nox is like, I need to find out what happened to the kingdom and my father. And I was like, oh, we all kind of know what happens to your
you know
father,
what
man.
happened.
Like, you know.
And do you think it was a small red flag that they cast a Sean Bean as the voice of King Regis?
No, and I you know what I feel very okay.
I
Here's the thing:
I
when I watched that scene,
I was
I was actually very shocked because I mean, in the trailers and stuff, you see like King Regis is like alive, and I'm thinking,
I
oh, okay,
know, I know. It's like,
he
oh,
would
he's
be
gonna,
in
he's
the
gonna.
in the game, so I didn't think he was gonna die in this movie. So when it happened, I was like, what is this
Oh
fake? Is this happening? And then I turned to my friends who I was with, and I was like, what? And I was like, he's alive in the game, and they're like, no, he's
no,
dead. And I was
yes,
like, wow. And then afterwards, when I started like thinking about it and how I should have predicted it, I was like, oh, of course, they had Sean Bean
Sean Bean
as the
played. It was like,
voice.
what has this guy died in?
So it's like, it was another Ned Stark, it was another Boromir. It was like, oh
Yeah,
well, great, okay, I should have known that. Like once they cast Sean
ex-
Bean, King Regis was marked for
exactly.
death. But all the fight scenes with him, I think were super
Oh,
awesome. Like when
oh, I thought they were, I absolutely love
all the
that.
fight scenes in this movie, period, I
Oh,
think were great.
definitely.
The only one that I didn't really follow so well was when the old wall started fighting back against the Niflheim,
It was kind of confusing because it kept jumping between
the
uh
Knicks and the general
Nixon
fight.
Gerald fighting, and then and then the old wall fighting. Initially, I'm calling it Ultimate Weapon, Diamond Ultimate Weapon, because anyone who has played Final Fantasy VII will kind of recognize what that creature looks like. That is undoubtedly Diamond Ultimate Weapon from Seven. I was like, wait a second, that definitely looks like one of the ultimate weapons, but from Seven, and it looks very much like that. So when you get a chance and you find out like Google pictures of it, you'll see the resemblance between the two. I was like, okay, this is pretty awesome that they're bringing that element into this film.
Right. Yeah, and that
I,
was pretty cool. But yeah, I just couldn't distinguish between the two sometimes because it was going so quickly, and then like
yeah,
the two monsters looked the same. It was kind of the same issue that some people had with what was that? The name of that big movie that just came out? Where not Transformers, the one that came the oh my god, something Prime? No, not Prime. Oh, it's
um,
gonna hurt my brain. Oh my god, it was the big kaiju film.
oh, Pacific Rim.
Pacific Rim. Thank you. Yeah, same issue that they had there is that you can't really tell like who's fighting who sometimes.
Especially
Um,
it was all in the dark, so I was like, why can't we have a
yeah.
fight in the daylight so we can kind of see what's going on?
Yeah. Oh, but yeah, going back to what you were saying about like they have Luna trying to marry Noctis to combine the two nations, Tenebrae and Insomnia. That actually plays kind of into uh, this is more like a Game of Thrones type mentality that you'll see. That
Yeah.
you marry off two nations to like create an alliance between them, and this has a lot of flavor of Game of Thrones. You have a little bit of course, the same Final Fantasy flair. You have
Which I don't think is a coincidence. I think they knew what
oh
they
no
were
no no,
doing.
especially with the voice acting they got. They had
Hmm.
Ned Stark and Cersei Lannister in there, so they definitely are going for that vibe, and that's fine because actually my favorite Final Fantasy is Final Fantasy 12, and it's because of the political empire
Really?
intrigue. Oh yeah, hands
Wow.
down. Like I love the Gambit system. I love the license boards. Can't wait for
Wow.
Zodiac Age. Like that
Wow.
is my shit. I don't know if
Wow.
I'm allowed to curse on your channel, but that is
Wow.
my
No. It's cool. That's shocking because that's actually like for me. I like that it had that dynamic, but I really didn't like the combat system. I really disliked the license system. I was like, wait a minute, you get the ultimate weapon, but you can't use it unless you buy a license to use it. That's just kind of
well, the mentality behind it is that the license is really you a training module. It's like you have to train to use that weapon to be able to use that weapon, kind of a thing. So you have to build up your board to get to that certain weapon to play it. But yeah, like I love that stuff, and I love that story. I love the empires, and like the whole thing with this is that they have like a little prelude to this movie, like the whole uh,
yeah.
Luna
Seems
Freya
like
talking about the past,
yeah.
where Tenebrae did have an alliance with Insomnia, but it
Something.
was kind of broken when Niflheim came and
Define
attacked and killed.
the queen.
Yeah, they killed the queen, and then that. By the way, another Game of Thrones reference. Her brother, Luna's older brother, the one who gets killed because he's not worthy to put
Yeah.
on the ring. He reminds me a lot of Daenerys's older brother, the Dragon
Hmm.
Queen lady in Game of Thrones. She has a brother who had like the same haircut, and they had the same vibe, and they both kind of got burnt. I mean, for Game of Thrones people, they know what I'm talking about, and that I like again, like you were saying, like those parallels are definitely, I think, deliberate. They're definitely trying to play
Yeah.
to that vibe, that mentality. But yeah, oh my god, we didn't even talk about the Kingsglaive itself, which is what this movie is written about.
I thought it was a pretty badass elite force. I liked. I mean, it kind of reminded me a little bit of the Jedi Order, except a little bit different. Like, could you imagine what the Jedi Order would have been like if, like, say, Grandmaster Yoda was able to put up this like giant force barrier around the temple, and like all the Jedi in the Order were like drawing the light side of the Force from him. I mean, just
Yeah.
imagine the strain Yoda would have been under. Like I have to maintain this wall, and I have to allow all my Jedi Order buddies. Like, they're drawing the Force from me, and if anything happens to me, they're all pretty much powerless, and they have to find a new source. So I absolutely love that dynamic,
I
and
loved
I
it.
abs-
Like when they brought that up, that the Kingsglaive was basically leeching off of the king's magic. Like I was like,
exactly.
that's a
Wow.
brilliant idea. Like wow.
Yeah, I absolutely love the warping, how they
Oh
used it.
God, yes.
That is going to be such I mean, we kind of already were able to test it out in the Final Fantasy 15 demo, but the way they were using it was probably my favorite aspect of their use of combat because it allowed them to get around and dodge attacks and attack enemies relative in really unique ways. So
Hmm.
I love that.
And I like that it wasn't always easy. Like for
Oh
Nyx,
no,
when they were attacking the gunships, he like threw it like 5 times because he couldn't make it. You know, he was like, oh shoot, and then he was like
yeah, he's
falling. Oh shoot,
flip,
you know,
flip,
like I
flip.
love seeing people not being overpowered and actually struggling with mastery of their power. Like it's not just like, oh, we're just amazing because we can warp anywhere. Like no, it takes effort, you know, to do
Mhm.
that. And that was really great. What did you think of Nyx, by the way?
I thought he was a great protagonist. Kind of pretty stereotypical, but he did have enough depth. I mean, he you can kind of see that he had a troubled past of, being he's one of the outcasts, like kind of one of the people who wasn't really born into the order, but he was just
Right.
taken because they discovered that he could actually use the magic from the king, and so he's kind of like, you're only here because the king granted you some of his power, so don't think you're really worth anything. And then you find out that he is of some worth because he is very loyal. He knows
And he's
to,
worthy of the king's power.
exactly
Yeah, or at least for a little while. So
for a little while.
right. And the whole thing about most of the Kingsglaive, this group is they actually come from the countryside of, or
Exactly.
not Insomnia, but the countryside of
Outside.
Lucius. You
Yeah.
know, so not in the urban city, but kind of where basically Noctis and his friends are going to be exploring is like the outside countryside.
Yeah.
Which again in the latest trailer is something he was talking about, like, oh, I haven't seen the world before. Like he's talking about all the things he can see. And all of them come from there, and that's where Niflheim is attacking. Like they're attacking the
And
outskirts of the city, and like there's no support from Insomnia itself, and they're kind of mad about that. And like some of the Kingsglaive are like, why are they
you know,
not like? Why are we pulling back? Why do they have this big wall and we don't have protection for our families? And I thought that was a really cool
yeah,
scenario to be
I was
brought up.
just like, at that moment where like they're setting up that little operation in order to save Luna, and then you kind of find out that like most of the Kingsglaive just went rogue out of nowhere. I was
Right.
like, oh snap!
But
This
it made sense
is
though. It wasn't just out of the blue. It was like, yeah, they were pissed
it did
off.
make
You
sense,
know.
but I was like so focusing on the here and now that did surprise me of how many went rogue. I was just
Right.
like,
There was
oh,
a few.
maybe
There was a. I thought it would have been like a handful, but it seemed like
a lot
half of
more than
them.
that. Yeah, I was like, oh wow.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then I didn't really care much for his best friend though. I don't know.
No. He was just he seemed a bit butthurt, and he's just like, we're giving up our homes, and this is wrong. I'm going to join this resistance, and it's going to allow the Empire to take over, and they'll promise to give our homes back. I'm like, you idiot! That's like a rebel wanting to make an alliance with the Empire and believing that they'll keep their word. Of course they
Right.
won't. You're stupid for thinking
It's
that.
the
So
Lando Calrissian effect.
exactly.
Sorry,
Uh,
keep Logan.
I know. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, like I said, the fight scenes were awesome. Like when they first were at the treating sighting, and then you see King Regis pretty much bring up his whole power to bear with all like the
And
flailing
then
swords. I
and
was
then
like, oh my god, this is dope. And the whole fight with the general, like, oh my god, the general was so dope. Like throughout the whole
Oh,
entire movie,
oh, definitely.
all his fight scenes.
I'm curious on his character because I was like, wait a minute, if this is the same guy who killed the Queen 12 years ago,
Right.
how is he able to infiltrate and become captain of the Kingsglaive? And why did he? You're telling me he served for 12 years just for this moment? It seemed like it kind of came out of nowhere. I mean,
Yeah,
because he
story
was
wise, it was
talking.
kind of like, what?
What? I
Definitely a head
mean,
scratcher. I was like, really? Like he? Okay.
like, yeah, he says I betrayed the king because he gave up our homes. He didn't make that decision until 2 days ago, but you had this issue with him since 12 years ago. Like, what?
Yeah, like he didn't. I think that was more like there to be like, oh, shocker, it's someone that we knew this whole time, but it didn't really like add up
Exactly.
necessarily, you know. But him is like just him as the general, like as a separate character in my mind, rather than like this guy who was actually the captain. was awesome. Like
Oh,
just
definitely.
the general himself, and then
I was a little bit sad that he died because I was like, oh man, this is gonna make an awesome boss fight. It's like this is the guy that killed your father. Now
that's
you're
what
gonna
I
take
thought
him
too.
out. I
Yeah.
was like, no, no, we're not gonna get to fight him. Oh, like oh well.
And then we don't necessarily see. I mean, we assume Nyx is burning away, but we don't necessarily see him fully burn away. I mean, because again,
No.
like he puts on the ring as everybody else, like two other people in the movie did, and they were not worthy, and they burned up. And he was about
Yeah.
to burn up too at one point because he said, "I forget." He's like, "Forget you guys" or something like that, and he started burning up. And then
And
but
then
then King Regis came
King
in. He's like,
Regis
"No,
says, yeah, he's he's
he's
worthy, and he's like,
cool
okay, like was like, okay, we'll give him our power
until the sun
until the sun
rises."
rises.
Yeah,
So,
and then like the sun rises, then you see him kind of burning away, but you don't see necessarily him actually. So I'm wondering if he'll show up again in the
or
game.
I don't know, what if he like turns into some sort of statue, and as we're exploring the game, we
Oh my god,
actually
you
like run
see it?
into. It's like what's up with that guy? Why is he like a statue? Why is he like that? And it's like, oh, as gamers, we know why he's like that. So it's like, oh,
Right. That's pretty funny. Yeah. But like yeah, the infight, the little speech that they had together about like the empire and all that. I think that was really cool, and I like that the world that they're establishing. I think it's a very good world that they have as a
oh,
foundation for the
oh,
game,
absolutely.
and the political like stuff with that. And then you have the emperor and his little uh, hand person, his second in command, who's
Ugh.
weird, but he seems cool.
And I all I know is I'm gonna have a fun time just beating up two couple of old geezers when I get the chance. I'm gonna enjoy that boss fight. I'm gonna enjoy it.
Yeah, and actually, the thing about warping is that I didn't. I mean, we've seen like episode Desk and then the Platinum demo, like where you do see the warping, but you never really got the actual rules established for it. Like in this movie, I feel like they visualize
Like
what
exactly
warping
how it
was, and
works. I mean, you even saw
yeah,
the cadets actually kind of testing it out. It's like, okay, this is how it actually works. It's like,
and how you can
okay,
fail at it too. You know,
yeah.
so that was really cool. Like seeing getting that established. But yeah, is there anything else that you came like popped out to you?
Let's see. Let's see the voice acting, some of the editing, the visuals.
Visuals are
Let's
top
see.
notch. There are some points where
Oh,
usually you can tell that it's animation when there's actual animation, like when their lip syncs going or they're moving. But if they were ever just like standing,
you couldn't
it
tell.
was like that's real life, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah. I'm wondering like, are we ever going to get to a point where you don't even need to do live action movies and like it becomes so good, like you totally believe that this is live action. I think when we get to that point, there's so many possibilities that they could do.
Yeah, they almost kind of got to that sort of. They can like integrate the technology from LA Noir, that
Oh,
PS3 game,
yeah.
PS2 game, where they had like the facial animation kind of thing, where it was legit facial animation. You know, if they can kind of integrate that somehow with this, because that's the one thing that's really kind of that sets you apart from the uncanny valley is that it's the lip movements that aren't sort right or the eyes
Yeah,
don't move
I
correctly. You know,
noticed that a few times. It's like, but that seems to always be an issue. Sometimes, I mean, they can get
right,
really
right.
close, but sometimes it's a little bit off. But you can kind of be forgiving of that. So I didn't think that didn't really bother me. That's kind of an unavoidable issue that you might have when you're doing it in that way.
Sorry, there was a little girl like
Oh no, it's okay.
laughing and
My
crying, so I was trying to cover it.
sorry.
But yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm super stoked for the game. I
Oh,
played the platinum demo like since the movie came out. I played it when they first released it, but then since the movie came out, played it literally five more
oh,
times.
I've played it. I've played the platinum demo. I played the one that came before. That one I think is a little bit more close to the game because we're actually playing as the group, and
Right.
even when you're fighting all these monsters, it never got boring to me. I mean, I'm still leveling up my characters. So yeah, I mean, I'll be playing. I mean, I've already purchased two copies of that. I purchased the Ultimate Collector's Edition
Wow.
for myself, which I'm one of the lucky ones that got it, and I'm getting the limited edition for my brother, so we can both be playing it. So
Wow. I just
I'm
got the basic
uh,
pre-order version.
that's
Oh, and
that's
I bought the strategy guide because I like the
oh
strategy
yeah,
guides a lot.
I'm getting the collector's edition limited guide for that for sure.
Yeah. 'Cause I'm down for that. I like that. I like knowing the side quests, all the side quests that you can sometimes miss.
Yeah.
But yeah, generally, I think that I mean, if you're a Final Fantasy fan, I think we would definitely recommend it for sure. You
I
know,
I would recommend it if you didn't mind being spoiled. I
Oh,
do
that's true. That's what you were saying
I,
before.
I
Yeah.
do stand by the fact that I think it tells us a little bit too much. I would recommend that anyone who wants to see this, you wait until after you've beaten the game, because if you watch this first, then when you're actually playing the game, you kind of know what has to happen and how the story is going to be unfolded. And I think that is a little bit spoiler, but I think because this one did such a good job, it might affect my playthrough the first time, but I'll still enjoy being in the here and now while I'm playing the game.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, that is it. I don't
That's
know. Do
it.
you do like an outro type thing or?
Usually I don't know, usually I'll say, well, if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to my channel for Final Fantasy versus series, but be sure to subscribe to Antoine's channel for Star Wars versus series,
Well,
which,
okay, that's a big misconception of my channel.
I mean,
That
or
is
I mean, and more versus series because I don't do Final Fantasy. I do Metal Gear Solid. I do
right.
Devil
See, same with
May
you.
Cry. So pretty much we both do versus series. So if you enjoy watching cool debates like that, subscribe to both our channels. But yeah,
Cool. So yeah, thanks for having me.
anytime.
Yeah, and that's it. Peace out, guys.
Peace out.